Hi, my name is Julio Franco, and I'm going to talk to about of Ledipasvir and Sofosbuvir for 8 and 12 weeks for chronic HCV without cirrhosis. Definition: Hepatitis C is a viral infection that causes inflammation of the liver, and in certain cases, it has a serious liver damage. The hepatitis C virus spreads through the contaminated blood. More than 3 million people in the United States are chronically infected with hepatitis C virus. Although the number of new infections has been declining for decades, HCV-related morbidity and mortality are predicted to continue rising for another 20 years.
Hepatitis C is a major problem in the United States and really around the world.
More people are dying of hepatitis C in this country than of HIV.
I think many people don't hear about what hepatitis C even is and how you can get it.
So hepatitis C is just a virus. It doesn't do a whole lot other than want to live in your liver and make more copies of itself. So the word hepatitis has to do with hepa, which is the liver, anything having to do with the liver, itis, which means irritated or diseased. And we know that there are different viruses that once they're in the body, their home base is the liver. The primary viruses we see in this country are hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C.
So anytime someone was exposed to someone else's blood, and that could happen through blood transfusions before 92, organ transplantation before screening, people on dialysis, people with hemophilia, as well as people who inject drugs. All were identified as high-risk populations, as were people living with HIV, because many of the same modes of transmission for HIV are also true for hepatitis C. Their immune system tries to fight it, and this battle goes on in a very silent way in their liver for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And it may also be causing other problems. Hepatitis C is linked to things like the development of type 2 diabetes, as well as lymphomas and kidney disease. But what happens to some people is over time their livers scar, leading to cirrhosis. But it's only at that stage, when the liver can no longer function, that symptoms become obvious.
When you're having all that itching, that's because your liver was acting up.
I had no symptoms. It didn't affect anything that I was doing. So I didn't respond to it.
And once you get cirrhosis, your liver can stop working.
And the idea is if you don't know you have it, you can't get the treatment and you can't be cured.
Applications in medicine. High rates of sustained virologic response were observed among patients with hepatitis C virus infection who received 12 weeks of treatment with the nucleopolymerase inhibitor sofosbuvir, combined with the NS5A inhibitor ledipasvir. This study examined 8 weeks of treatment with this regimen.
There are four very important notes about hepatitis C treatment. You will definitely have one of them in your exam, not likely to see it in clinical practice, but mainly in the exam. The most important note is that we only treat acute hepatitis C cases. We do not treat chronic hepatitis C. Matter of fact, if you treat the acute case well, the patient will be fully cured and they will never have to go to the chronic stage. Second, the prognosis of the treatment and the infection depends on the viral genotype. We have many different genotypes of hepatitis C infection, and that's how we know how much the patient will respond to the treatment. Not based on the treatment, not based on the patient's ethnicity or their adherence to medication or whatever, based on the viral genotype. Third, we have to check the patient's viral RNA load 3 and 6 months after we start the treatment. If the viral load is still high 3 or 6 months afterwards, we progress to the second line, and then we check again 3 and 6 months afterwards. And if it's still high, we progress to the third line, and so on. Fourth, and this actually came in my USMLE exam, once a patient is infected with hepatitis C, they have to be vaccinated against hepatitis A and hepatitis B viruses. And here are the first, second, and third guideline for treatment. So basically we start the first guideline and check the viral load. If it doesn't go down, we go to the second line, and if it doesn't go down, we go to the third line.
Pros and cons. Pros: Ledipasvir Sofosbuvir for 8 weeks has associated with a higher rate of sustained virologic response among previously untreated patients with HCV genotype 1 infection without cirrhosis. No patients who received 8 weeks of only Ledipasvir Sofosbuvir discontinued treatment owing to adverse events. Cons: Adverse events were more common in the group that received ribavirin than in the another two groups. Sorry. No additional benefit was associated with the inclusion of ribavirin in the regimen or with extension of the duration of treatment to 12 weeks.
When cells are injured or damaged and die off, usually that dead tissue that was previously full of living cells becomes fibrotic, meaning it becomes thickened with heaps and heaps of protein and forms scar tissue. So when your liver is constantly forced to process alcohol, like an alcoholic liver disease, or subject to a viral attack for a long time, like an HBV, or anything else that causes a long-term or chronic state of liver cell or hepatocyte destruction and inflammation, your liver can become seriously scarred and damaged to the point where it's no longer reversible, at which point it becomes fibrotic, and in the liver we call this process cirrhosis. Because it's usually irreversible, cirrhosis is often referred to as end-stage or late-stage liver damage. When liver cells are injured, they start to come together and form what are called regenerative nodules. You can think of these as colonies of living liver cells. And these are one of the classic signs of cirrhosis and are why a cirrhotic liver is more bumpy as opposed to a smooth, healthy liver. Also with cirrhotic liver tissue, you'll see that in between these clumps of cells or nodules is fibrotic tissue and collagen. Here's a classic histology image of cirrhotic tissue. This clump of cells in the middle is the regenerative nodule, and these blue stains surrounding it are the bands of protein from the process of fibrosis. If we zoom out a bit and look at it with the naked eye, we'll again see these nodules, which have fibrotic protein bands in between. Alright, but how do these bands of fibrotic tissue form though? Well, fibrosis is a process mediated by these special cells called stellate cells that sit between the sinusoid and hepatocyte, known as the parasinusoidal space. Here's a pretty basic layout of the basic functional unit of the liver. You've got the portal vein and the hepatic artery that combine into a sinusoid, which then goes into the central vein. And these are all lined with hepatocytes, right? Along these, though, you've also got a bile duct, and all these three constitute a portal triad. So the parasinusoidal space, which literally means around the sinusoidal space, and stellate cells are about here. And usually, in healthy tissue, these guys' main function is to store vitamin A and are otherwise considered quiescent, or sort of dormant. When the hepatocytes are injured, though, they secrete paracrine factors that activate and sort of change the stellate cells. When activated, these stellate cells lose vitamin A, proliferate, and start secreting transforming growth factor beta 1, or TGF beta, which then causes them to produce collagen, which is the main
Issues applying Ecuador. This treatment has not been used in Ecuador because it's used only in United States. This treatment. Conclusion: one half to three quarters of persons currently infected with HCV have not received a diagnosis and are untreated. Many will have progression to decompensated cirrhosis, hepatocellular carcinoma, and other liver complications. To accompany this painted screen program, there is a recognized need for example, safe regimen of short duration that can provide high cure rates in a broad range of patients. Thank you.